State affairs. Okay, thanks all for the opportunity to talk about the August primary. When I first ran for this office, I'd assumed that I would eventually be assessed by the rubric by which elections have long been assessed. Things like, did ballots go out on time? Were ballots correctly printed? Did voting locations open on time? Were people forced to stay in line for a long time? And in the time between running for office, starting to run for office, and taking office, the board obviously took statutory authority over some of these responsibilities, but I assumed the rubric would largely remain the same. And judged by the usual metrics, the election was a resounding success. So yay us. Did ballots go out on time? Yes. We sent out 1.4 million ballots on time. Many voters received these one day after we mailed them. All voters were able to track their ballots through all stages of the process. Were ballots correctly printed? Yes. In Pinal County, we unfortunately witnessed that this is a complicated process and things can go wrong. Maricopa County had over 19,000 ballot styles for the primary election, and we got them right. Were voting lists accurate? I'd posit that voting lists are the most accurate that they've been in recent history. This has been a priority for my office, and I'm so proud of the work that Janine and her team in voter registration have done and continue to do. Did people have access to information on how to vote? We did more with the media than ever before. We launched a rebuilt website. We responded to over 17,000 emails during the 27-day election period, and we responded in under 30 minutes on average for emails sent during business hours. Our call center took in many calls and kept wait times on election day under 10 minutes. And I think people know that if you message me on Twitter, I will respond. Did people have options to vote? Yes, they had more options than ever before. They could vote by mail, they could drop off their mail ballot, they could drop it off at a voting location, they could drop it off at a drop box, they can vote in person for any of the 26 days before Election Day at any of the voting locations, and on Election Day, they could vote at any of the 210 voting locations, which is more options than ever before in Maricopa County. Were people able to vote and was voting accessible? Yes, as Bill said, this was the largest turnout ever in a Maricopa County August primary. On the accessibility front, we continued to serve many voters through our special election boards that would send out a Republican and a Democrat to group homes, to nursing homes, to hospitals if needed, and they would meet the person there and assist with the process. We sent out Braille ballots, we sent out large print ballots. Many came back. We had accessible voting devices at every single voting location that worked as they should and were always there. Did voting locations open on time? Yes. Scott will touch on this, but I think it's truly impressive that every single voting location opened on time every single day of the 27-day period. Were people forced to stay in line for a long period of time? Nobody wants to do that in August. No, we had virtually no lines on any of the days before Election Day, and on Election Day, we kept all lines to under 15 minutes for most of the day until the very end of the day when people rushed into a few locations just to get in before 7 p.m., and that's something that we're going to continue to work on, but it was a success. Were all political interests treated fairly? Yes. I'm proud of the relationships that we've built with Nancy, Mickey, and Brandon of the Democratic, Republican, and Libertarian parties. I suspect that these relationships were more active than they've ever been before, and I'm grateful for their partnership. Were people able to observe the process? Yes, we had so many observers on observers. It was actually a pretty impressive showing by the parties. Political party observers were at voting locations throughout all 27 days of the election period. They were in our ballot processing room, they were in our signature verification rooms, they were in our tabulation center, and we worked closely with them. We had more cameras and higher definition cameras than ever before. When a member of the media actually wired me up and adjusted my clothing while doing so, I heard about it within 30 minutes from people online who said I no longer was able to dress myself, which may or may not be true, but not for that reason. When a media station did a segment at a Dropbox at MCTEC at 4 a.m., we heard about it within an hour from the counsel for the Republican Party. Were ballots handled securely and with care? Yes, we had more tracking devices and chain of custody reports than ever before, and we have taken our security measures to new heights with things like serialized tamper evidence seals on virtually everything every time ballots are moved. Were ballots tabulated accurately? Yes. The pre-election logic and accuracy test done by the Secretary of State's office confirmed the accuracy of our tabulation equipment, and the post-election hand count audit of a statistically significant number of ballots performed not by us, but performed by the political parties confirmed the accuracy of the tabulation equipment. We also did a post-election logic and accuracy test that confirmed, once again, the accuracy of the equipment. Did we confirm identity? Yes. To vote in person, you have to first scan your ID, and then you have to show it to a poll worker who comes over. To vote by mail, you have to use the green ballot affidavit envelope with a unique barcode that links to your voter ID profile, and you have to sign your envelope. We added additional audit cues to the signature review process that made it even more robust. Were ballots tabulated in a timely manner? Yes, as Chairman Gates suggested, this was actually broke some records. And on Tuesday election night, we released the results of 600,000 ballots, which included all ballots that had been received by Sunday before Election Day, which was a record for Maricopa County. And, you know, I'm stealing some of your thunder already, but I'll let you get more into that. Did we work well with the media? Yes, they were permanent fixtures at MCTEC for the week leading up to the election. Those are relationships that we greatly valued. We answered scores of emails, as Chairman Sellers suggested, and did many, many media interviews. We are grateful for their partnership, whether it was the Arizona Republic, the Mirror, the Capital Times, VoteBeat, Arizona Agenda, Axios, Associated Press, Washington Post, New York Times, KTAR, KJazz, ABC 15, Arizona Family, Fox 10, NBC 12. They were all there. We worked with them closely. Did we keep up with our other responsibilities while doing this? Yes. While running this election, we also continued to properly and effectively serve our recording customers. We processed the candidate filings for the nonpartisan races in November, like school boards and water boards. We participated in the candidate challenges for those races, and we did the humongous work of combing through the thousands and thousands of petition sheets for the 3 proposed statewide initiatives. Did we support our permanent workers? Yes, and I'm particularly proud of this one, and I'm grateful that the team remains so strong. We're reading about election officials throughout the country who are very reasonably saying enough is enough, and Scott sent me a link just yesterday of an entire elections department in a county in Texas just getting up and walking away. But we in Maricopa County remain intact, and I think, depending on the day, for the most part, happy. So hopefully we'll keep that up. Did we support our temporary workers, one of whom is here today? Yes, we increased pay. We offered bonuses. We increased training with our programs like our new premium poll worker training. And starting this week, we will be surveying our temporary workers to see exactly how they felt the process went and what we can continue to do to improve. When temporary workers were subjected to some of the vileness of this brave new world of elections, we immediately took action, thanks to the good leadership of Supervisor Gates, and we improved the situation and we let them know that we have their backs. Did we work together as a whole county, as a team? Yes, and it is truly a team. Sheriff Penzone did everything he could to ensure that voters and workers were safe, and he succeeded with the assistance of the amazing people at local law enforcement, state law enforcement, and federal law enforcement. Assessor Eddie Cook and Treasurer John Allen did everything they could to make sure that the STAR call center was ready for the massive amount of calls. And actually, Assessor Cook was out in the field answering election questions on election day. Our awesome new county attorney, Rachel Mitchell, got to remind people that the 8th commandment, thou shalt not steal, is still in effect and applies to county property as well. She is also partnering with us on potentially pursuing some of the targeted threats sent to our office. Did we get in the trenches? Yes. All of the leadership team barely slept for an entire week. IT Director Nate could be seen carrying boxes throughout the warehouse at 1 a.m. Abby and Kara stayed up for 30 hours straight to make sure all the early ballot envelopes dropped off on Election Day were scanned overnight such that we could immediately begin signature verification. I littered many rooms in MCTEC with cans of Diet Coke as I hopped on everything from signature verification to warehousing. And of course, Ray and Scott continued to lead the charge as they always do, working incredibly hard, even up until today. And I know some short sleep nights went into producing this report that they'll present here today. So fortunately, most people still continue to judge us by this traditional rubric. And so far, 86% of survey respondents have said their experience was excellent or very good. We also know that there's a cadre of people who desperately want us to fail, and quite frankly, treat us with a level of hate and contempt that is inhumane. They do this not because of any factual-driven analysis. They do this simply because we're election workers and simply because we've consistently told the truth over the last 2 years. We received hundreds of profanity-laced emails and messages from all over the country. As an example, Steve, do your fucking job, you moron. Count the ballots already. Another, Steve, I understand you can't deviate from the election steal, but you will lose in the end. Perhaps Trump will have you hung as a traitor when he's president again. Hope it's broadcasted live on pay-per-view or something. I'd like to have you in a black and white poster in my office of you hanging from the end of a rope during your Gitmo trial and execution. This was sent by somebody who wanted us to have the 122,000 early ballots dropped off on election night tabulated by election night as well. So I guess he didn't want us to signature verify them. And nobody calls me Steve. It's Steven. Our call center attendants would be regularly abused by screaming, shouting, all the profanity you can think of, and sometimes only to find out that the caller was from Massachusetts. To those people, I'd say you're not just trying to thwart my political career. You're not just rooting against Bill Gates or Clint Hickman or Steve Gallardo. You're rooting against American democracy, and we're not going to listen to that. We're going to continue to improve on the successful election we just ran, because yes, there are improvements that we can and should make. And then we're going to do a great job as a team again in November. Thanks.